Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Welcome back to another episode. Let's see who all we have in chat here. Black Cat, Worley Big Gig, Window Liquor, Juan Robles, hello, prepping artist. First for the day. Sorry I haven't been here the past few days. It's just so cold. It was cold. There's snow up here. Okay, there's snow, and snow sucks. So I had to go down to the islands for a few days, swim with dolphins and stuff. Those of you who follow me on Facebook have saw my pictures with the dolphins. It's pretty cool, pretty good time. 5x5, thank you, Pilgrim. Sherman Sales, how you doing? Hey, Big T, how you doing? PMP. All right, tonight let's dig into history a little bit. Okay, yes, a U.S. naval ship was attacked. 34 killed. 177 wounded. All right. Survivors of the incident who went back on board the ship to clean up after it was limped into port had to put enough body parts to fill 168 bags. All right. 168 bags of U.S. military members' body parts and classified documents that happen to be in the mix. So think about that. Yes, it was nasty. When did this happen? It happened in 1967. Oh man, Rob, how's that relevant to today? Because you keep your friends close and you keep your enemies closer. The people who did this, first off, the name of the ship was the USS Liberty, for those of you who do not know, all right? It happened in 1967. Why do some of you know that date? That was the 6-Day War, okay? That is when you hear, especially over the past few months, you've heard lots about, the last time that Israel was attacked, the 6-Day War, they were almost pushed into the sea, this and that and the other. Bunch of propaganda, basically. Because we're going to dig into what really happened and how a U.S. Navy ship got involved and got annihilated by Israel. Okay? Yes, our ship flying our flag with our hull numbers on the side, with our sailors waving at their attackers before the attack, was hit by an ally named Israel. Okay, I know some of you that's not surprising to some of you, but to some of you it is. Some of you have never heard about this before. All right. Now, in the 1967 war, the 6-Day War, growing up as an American in America, we're typically taught, there was a 6-Day War. Israel had to fight off all these Arab countries that were surrounding it. Chaos prepper, you remember. Okay. How many of you have been taught that? I'll assume quite a bit of you, quite a few of you at least were taught that. All right. How many of you were taught that Israel started the war? How many of you were taught in school that Israel started bombing Egypt, did a preemptive attack on Egypt? I know I wasn't. I was never taught that in school. I actually had to learn that by researching and looking up this information to verify what I had heard. Now, yeah, I don't remember. Well, some of us aren't old enough to remember. Some of us just weren't taught. We were taught Israel fended off Arab aggression. But you can't call it Arab aggression when you do a preemptive strike. That you can't walk up and punch somebody in the face and say, I was just fending off aggression. No, doesn't want that. I mean, maybe some people can do that. I don't see there's the flaw in the logic. Okay. I'll flip through some of my notes here. The first day, the second day of the 6-Day War, things were starting to heat up before that. But on the first day, Israel launch fighter jets into Egypt, all right, to preemptively bomb Egypt. That's how the whole war kicked off, okay? During this, we had the USS Liberty, which was a intelligence ship, a U.S. military intelligence ship. We still have them today. They got lots of antennas on them. They're real cool looking, funky looking. You can tell an intelligence ship when you see one. It was flying our flag. It had the hull numbers on the side. It was clearly a U.S. vessel. These things are lightly armed. They don't have a lot of weapons they have basically zero offensive weapons. They have some self-defense weaponry to fend off pirates and shit like that. Small things that might be coming at them. They typically do not have anti-aircraft weapons. Well, they were cruising along just north of Egypt in international waters. And the funny thing happened to them was that all their communications started being jammed. Now, to a lot of people, this wouldn't seem unusual when a war's going on, but it's hard to jam people's communications if you don't know the frequencies. Okay. It's like you'll see in the movies that, oh, well, we're jamming their radar. Well, if we're jamming somebody's radar, it's because, or communications, it's because we already know the frequencies that they're using. That's how you jam them. All right. Now, when it comes to intelligence ships and the U.S. military, typically the only people who actually know what frequencies we're using are our allies. All right. Because we use those same frequencies to communicate with them. Make sense? Makes sense. Okay. So in order for someone to jam a U.S. military intelligence ship, they would have almost 98% chance have to be an ally because they'd have to know our frequencies that we were using. Okay. So all of a sudden they start, after they get their shit jammed, they start picking up radio traffic. They can't broadcast out, but they can still hear. And they could hear that and see that Israel was bombing Egypt. Now, why would they want to jam our communications? Maybe so that no one knew that they started it. Why wouldn't they want somebody to know? Well, sympathy. Sympathy is a big thing. Look right now, poor Israel being attacked by these people and those people. Same thing in 1967. All right. They flew in, started some shit. And then just like, and everybody says, well, you had Jordan come in. Jordan had treaties with Egypt, just like we have with other NATO countries and United Nations. Okay. If you're attacked, we'll attack whoever's attacking you. We'll try to slow them down. All right. Mutual defense treaties. Many countries have these. And it just so happens that Jordan, Syria, and places like this had them with Egypt. So when Israel attacked Egypt, these other countries had to respond. But we're not taught that in school. We're not taught that. We're taught Arab nations bad, attack Israel. When in reality, that's not what happened at all. It's not what happened at all. And then because we had one ship down in that area and the rest of our ships were further up, about 500-600 miles away, our aircraft carrier group was about 600 miles away. They were up there monitoring what was going on in the Middle East and Mediterranean, and making sure nobody really got too belligerent with Israel there, because that's how we've been for quite a while. They didn't want. It appears as though they didn't want our intel ship saying, "Hey, by the way, guys, they're down here starting some shit that should not have been started. They're breaking some treaties there." And I know there's going to be people that don't like truth. I know that, Stephen Hall, Michigan Outpost. You're 100% right. Some people can't handle the truth, but our sailors were out there on the deck, doing their thing, chilling, standing to watch, when all of a sudden Israeli aircraft started coming by to investigate who they are and what they were doing. Now you can see Old Glory flying, and you can always see you'll look at any naval warship. Old Glory's flying, and it's a big flag. It's easy to see. All right. Hull numbers, 5 feet tall, 3 feet wide on the side. USS, you name it, on those ships. All right. So first they came by, and survivors reported they were waved at by pilots. All right. And they waved back. That was the first go around. The second time they came in, they started strafing the ship. They hit it with rockets. They hit it with basically like 40 millimeter guns, just blowing holes through the ship. Then they came through again and dropped napalm on the ship. And if that wasn't bad enough, if the ship hadn't had a bunch of holes busted through it, if they hadn't been hit with missiles, if they hadn't had fire dropped on them, here come a couple Israeli torpedo boats and blew holes in the side of it. All right. And while this was happening, they're constantly trying to get out communications, trying to reach, the fleet and let them know what was going on. And their radioman ended up being able to slip a signal through. All right. An emergency mayday that they were going down, they were sinking, they were being attacked. All right. By unknown forces at that point in time. Which, ironically, as soon as that message got through, as soon as they verified that it got through, all the attacks stopped. And the ambassador of Israel immediately called the United States and said, "Oh, I'm afraid there's been a horrible accident." Yeah, horrible accident. That's what they said. Okay. So why would they want to do this? Well, it was a land grab. You know how over the past 2 months we've heard about, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and this, that, and the other, and how Palestinians live there and live in the West Bank. Well, at that point in time, before that war, the West Bank belonged to Jordan, and the whole area called the Gaza Strip actually belonged to Egypt. It was part of Egypt. It was Egyptian land. All right. So what this enabled them to do was to grab all this extra land so that they would have a place to relocate all of the citizens of their country that weren't Jewish. Isn't that wild? They literally took other countries' land, made giant concentration camps, and then pulled all the people that weren't Jewish out of their country and shoved them into these camps. And in the process, they bombed the living shit out of our boys. Again, killing 34, which had to have their remains put into 168 bags. 168 bags. This is per the survivors saying this. And 177 were wounded. All right. Many of them received the Purple Heart. Now, if you look this up on Wikipedia, the 6-day word, it'll say belligerents. The belligerents were Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Egypt, and UAE. All right. The belligerents. How can you be a belligerent when someone outside of that group did the first bombing, flew over and started bombing the shit out of somebody? That dog don't hunt, as my old first sergeant used to say. That dog don't hunt. All right. So there's that. And after 1968, that was in 1967, 1968, the Israeli government said, well, I guess, because the U.S. kind of pushed them a little bit and said, well, we'll give the widows of the men we killed, $25,000 a piece. And if they have a kid over the age of 5, we'll give them an extra $10,000 for each kid over the age of 5. If they're under 5, we don't think it'll be traumatic enough to be worth the expenditure, so we're not going to pay anything. And that is basically what happened. Okay. And over on X, formerly Twitter, I put a video where you can actually watch the survivors talk about this. All right. The survivors talk about, from the beginning of their day to pulling back into port in the U.S. after their ship was repaired, and how it looked like nothing had happened by the time they get their ship repaired in, I believe, Malta. But, how they went back on board and they had to use shovels to pick up their buddies, to scrape up their buddies and put them in bags. It's an eye-opening video. And, if you, after that video, you go back and you research on your own independently, you'll see that what they've said is accurate. Okay. So the government covered that up for a long time. All right. For a long time. It is what it is. What we got going on in the chat? Let's see. This is all fact. I've heard the stories from my uncle, 30 years active, and many others. Yep, prepping plumber. There you go. An accident in my ass. Exactly. The reason I bring this up is because there are so many in the prepping community that buy into the propaganda that is spun by the U.S. war machine and the Israeli war machine. All right. These two alone are responsible for more false flag events. And false flag is when you make something look like somebody else did it. That's all a false flag is. Back in the day, you'd have a pirate ship. They'd run up a flag of Britain to get close to a British merchant ship. Then they'd hoist the switch over and throw the other colors up. And then they'd be like, oh, shit, it's too late now. They're too close. We can't run. That's all a false flag is. And the countries who have done the most are those two. All right. The number of times the U.S. has done it is ridiculous. The number of times, Israel was founded because of bombings. Google the King David Hotel bombing. All right. In the 1940s. That was the future politicians of Israel at that point in time that were bombing the British and civilians, lots of civilians. Pretty nasty. What's PMP say? Well, I'm learning now. So 1967, 6-day war. I'm going to do a deep dive. Do it. Get in there and look and see what you can find. Most of the things will say, well, you'll find a lot that says that, they didn't realize it was a warship. But in the video I posted on X, which again, if you're new to that, I'm Warlord TV Actual on X, formerly Twitter. I just posted it a little bit ago. But the witnesses, the people who were there on the ground, will say we heard them. We had translators because they're an intelligence ship. Okay, they had people who could speak Arabic, people that could speak Hebrew, because that's the area they were working in, and they heard the communications. They recorded the communications back and forth between the people who were bombing them and shooting them and the people who were giving the fucking orders. All right. And I'm going to believe the people who got shot at. All right. In this case. So go take a look at that. That's why I don't feel sorry, when for the last 70 years, 80 years, you have a country that consistently starts shit. Consistently. Eventually you got to stand back and let them get punched in the face and say, you know what? You kind of had that shit coming, bro. You kind of had that shit coming. All right. Well, nice new pick. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? No? All right. Thank you for being here. Go check that out. Do research for yourself. Don't believe everything you see on the news. Don't believe what I tell you. Research what I tell you. All right. Thanks, Camper Special. As I said, if it's cutting through bullshit, I'm going to put it on X. I'm going to put it on here as long as they allow me to be here. I still got to get that Patreon up and going. I just don't feel like I have enough stuff to put on there. Like I said, I never wanted this to be about charging things for anything. That's why I never monetized this channel. But I'm tired of them censoring my shit. All right. Have a good night. God bless. Thanks each and every one of you for being here. Share this shit. Spread knowledge. All right. Thank you. I'm out.